computer screen. Anyway, so as Sharon said, I've had quite a colorful past and plan on continuing to have quite a colorful future. And I'm a little entrepreneurial in the sense where I like to, I come up with ideas and I love figuring out ways of getting things started and then actually making them happen. So that is, without said, kind of what we're going to talk about today. So idea makers, making it happen. So turning that brilliant idea into reality. And this is really a practical conversation for you as an inventor, an artist, or a dreamer. It's my approach, how I've done it. There's lots of other ways, perhaps, to do things. But this is just has been my path in life and what I've done. So I'm going to try to share with you what I've done. All right. So what do you do when you're presented with that magical moment in your head, which I get all the time, and when you've come up with an idea that excites you and you just can't stop thinking about it everywhere you go, you're like, oh, I gotta get this out of my head. What am I going to do? Or the other scenario is someone comes up to you and they approach you with an idea and you know it's incredible and you know it would be phenomenal. It's got to happen. And so then you convince the person that you're the right one for their job, for their team, and you set out on your path to try to make something happen. All right, great, good for you. But now, where are you going to begin? All right, so let's look at different kinds of categories of idea makers. First, you have an inventor. They're a person who creates an object, something tangible that you can touch. It's an item of some sort. So my silly examples would be something we want to improve upon. So I said perhaps a better can opener, or maybe something that hasn't been thought of yet. Ping pong balls with wings on them could be, or a need in the marketplace that hasn't been met, like a mini escalator shelves in the supermarket so you can reach the products that are up too high because I'm short. And I always really actually thought that would be an awesome idea. Or maybe a new toy, a stuffed animal that cleans your child's room when they sleep. So whatever it is, your idea, so many people come up with inventions and you think that they're going to be phenomenal, so you want to try to make it. All right. So then the next kind of idea would be the artist. Now the artist does something different. They take something that's in the air and they want to put it together and make it plausible. And so they create, it's called intellectual property. Intellectual property, because it's not a tangible good. It's not a thing you can hold in your hand. So, for example, things that would be like that would be books. So you have this idea that you want to write your first kids novel, so watch out Hemingway, because it's going to be the greatest kids book ever. You're going to be the next Dr. Seuss, and you want to write your book. Or perhaps you're a musician. You love to write music. And since that's a really strong category that I'm in, you want to write your music and you want to get it out into the public. But that is intellectual property. It's not something that you really hold on to. Or perhaps it's television. Maybe you're writing a TV script or a mini-series or a cartoon or an animation series. There again, intellectual property. Screenplays are also the same if you want to do something for the theater. Filmmakers, if you want to raise money, you have an indie film you want to write, and that could take years and years to raise the financing and the capital to get the money behind you to produce your film. Theater, you might have penned a great American tragedy and you want to get backers and investors and associate producers and producers to mount your Broadway show. Or perhaps you're an artist. You have these incredible paintings that you've done or you've sculpted, or you're a photographer and you want to mount your first gallery show, so you need to raise capital and then get interest to get your show mounted. So these are all intellectual properties. The next thing I see would be dreamers. These are the people that create happenings that affect other people. For example, right now I have my friend and I, we went to India and just stumbled into this moment in our life where we started to gather up children, and we're putting children in school in Jaipur, and it was just a serendipitous moment where somebody helped us out and we decided to help this man, and then we put his children in school, and then he asked us to put more kids in school, so we flew back and we ended up meeting with 3 schools and putting 32 children in school in the past 2 years. So we decided we needed to form a nonprofit, 501c3, and get that going. So that's being a real dreamer, but yet we need to raise capital for that. So so charities could be regards to anything in arts, education, health. And then events, maybe you have this great idea to have this huge music festival. They're so popular. And you would love to have a music fest, or maybe you want to have an antique and flea market. Well, you still need to get capital for that, and you still need to have your business plan. So there again, this is more of an abstract thing, more of a dreaming type of thing, but yet it all comes under the same concept of making your dreams happen. So how do you do this? You go, holy crap, I have this, I have this idea that I want to do something. Where do I start? I got the idea to my head. I made some notes. I have all these little stickies all over my house on the walls. I have notes on my phone. I have notes in my computer. I have drawings, whatever. How do you start this process? Well, oh, that's cute. Well, the first thing, now that you've identified, let me go back to this little screen that I put up here. So now that we've identified what type of brilliant idea or product you've come up with, how in the world are you going to get them out into the marketplace? All right, so there is definitely a linear process that exists as you venture into what seems as an overwhelming task, but there really is it's very linear because you have to really do some very important things to get started. The first thing you really need to do, no matter what your thing is you need to protect yourself. Everybody loves a good idea, so you have to protect yourself because you have to kind of also keep it to yourself, because if you tell other people, there's always a chance that they might run with your idea also. So if it's an item, if it's a thing, you want to trademark it, which means that now you get that little registered mark, that little TM next to your item. And you need to do that. You have to go to a trademark attorney, and he's got to make sure that what you are trying to get done hasn't been done already. And if it has, if you have the same name, you have to find your names. You have to play around with everything until you can really lock down your trademark. And that would be true with anything. It would be true with, if you invent something. It's true with music and writing, but there again, that's intellectual property, but you have to still protect it. And there's all different ways to do that. If you have something proprietary that you make, and it's a formulation of something or some kind of knick-knack that you create that nobody else has, you have the ability to patent that, the design or the proprietary formula. And then you need to also, there's other options too. You can register with appropriate agencies. In particular with music, when you write music, you register it with BMI or ASCAP, and this way you send them the songs that you have, and then this way they're on file. They know that you did it. They have the tracks, and then you're protected that way. You also need to form, some kind of LLC to protect yourself and your company. So, excuse me. Because as you're doing this, you don't always just want to do it from a personal standpoint, because there could be problems, and you don't want it to affect your life. So by having an LLC, it takes the liability off your personal assets and puts it into kind of a little safe spot where no one can really get at you, because now you separated it from your personal world. And then other things like you want to secure the domain, you secure your domain name, get your email site up and your website, and that's really the beginning of it. So once you can use the name of the product you have, or the song, or the title of your book, or the name of the venue, or your nonprofit you want to start, or your creative venture. Once you know that you can use the name and you protect yourself, well, now you're ready to move on to the next step.
Robin?
Yes.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So you should probably protect yourself, your idea, before you start your domain name and start your website, right?
Well, you know what I have done, and there again, this is just my personal thought, is that when I have an idea, the first thing I usually do is I look up the domain name or the product name to see if anyone else is already using it, because I don't want to get married to a name of something and then find out after I've done all this work and this everything else involved, that the name is taken. So I usually, that's really, really, I'm glad you said that. That's the very first thing I do. I was with my cousin the other day, and she had this great idea she was telling me about, And she told me what the name was, and I'm like, wow, what an awesome idea for a product. It was a safety thing for a baby, a car seat. And she said, Forget Me Not. I'm like, wow, what a cute name that would be. So we're going on and we're thinking about it and we're thinking about it. And then I said, wait a minute, Lisa, let me look this up. And, I type in Forget Me Not, and sure enough, it's already taken, and it's already dealing with a car seat. And so, before you get crazy, you got to rethink it. And now you got to rethink your idea because maybe it's already been done. So you do have to do your research before you start with the trademarking and the patenting. You want to make sure no one did your idea, and it's really easy to do nowadays because all you have to do is type it in on the computer, and bam, 10, 20 years ago you couldn't do that. So now it's really, really simple. All right, so the next thing, once you're secure, once you know what you got, once you got your name, once you have everything in place and you're ready to go, you know you can do this now. Now you have to think really, really hard about your funding and what you need. And funding means even the time that you put into it, because a lot of people work, and so that takes away from their work and how many hours you're going to be putting into this. You really want to keep track of everything you do and how long something takes you to do, because it all has value, especially for yourself. And when you do your own project, you put so much time into it. You're constantly thinking about it, and you really need to watch your timeline. You really need to also not use, if possible, your own money, because you could really get caught into like a bit of like a hamster wheel, and just $100 more, $1,500 more, or $1,000 more. Before you know it, I know a lot of people who go through their life savings on ideas. I was just talking to a friend of mine last night who did this. And he was so close, and he got on. QVC wanted him, and he got an order from Toys R Us, and he put his life savings into something. But the insurance was crazy. He spent all this money, and he ended up losing everything, even though his product was fabulous and he thought it was going to go somewhere. The funding is extremely important. So you want to give yourself a limited amount of money, even if you're going to use yours to start. And then you really want to, once you build your idea and your concept, start to look for money or see perhaps if there's a company that wants to put up money. There's people that do venture capital, depending on your category of what you're looking for. There are people that invest in all different kinds of things, or maybe you want to take a partner, somebody who's in that category of what you're doing. Perhaps it's a producer who does events, or perhaps it's somebody, who makes toys, and they like your idea, and they do toys on their own, and they have a little bit more funding because they've had some success, or whatever the case. In theater also, maybe you want to take a partner. So partnerships, they're tricky, and you have to have your contract really, really developed with them, because you have to know how everything is going to break down. But the key to a really good contract is knowing how to get out of it. You need to know how to end the partnership before you begin it, and you need a lawyer who is good in that category of whatever your genre is, to help you with that. Because if you get into something and you form a partnership and you're going to split it a certain way, well, things always go wrong. So, but this product might still be out there in the universe, and you need to dissolve the partnership. So you really do need to have an understanding of how you're going to end it before you start it. And then there's other ways of getting money. There's Kickstarter, which everybody's extremely popular. If you want to go on Kickstarter and try to raise money, you tell your story, you put it up there, and then hopefully people send you money. There's another cool thing called the Makers Row. It's enterprises, entrepreneurs. That's for more somebody who wants to make something. It's a great website where it links you up to all these different types of manufacturers, and it just helps you get your product made. And I kind of threw that in the funding, but it's probably in the wrong category now that I think about it. But it's an awesome site for if you want to make something, because it'll link you into people who make wood or metal, or who fabricate things, and it's just this really nice cornucopia of places that you can find things, instead of like searching on the web at China, going, who can make this for me and whatnot. You might get a private investor, somebody who believes in you, or somebody in your family, or a rich aunt who decides that she's got too much money and would love to give you $50,000 to start up your business, and that would be awesome. And then you'll start up your website also. That's probably on the wrong page too. It should probably be in a different category. But so so funding, you have to figure out how you're going to make this happen, and the capital that you need. Whoops. Oh, that's cute. Okay. So now that you're getting somewhere, now you have to build your story and your game plan. You have to prove to that special someone why they're going to get you and your brilliant idea out there. whether that means getting it on QVC or HSN or getting it into a store like, a Macy's or getting the location to have your music festival, or perhaps securing a theater, to do your show, or, there again, all the different categories. Whatever it is, you're going to need other people now to come on board, and you're going to have to convince them, what you want to do. Especially, I had a project a couple of years ago. It was intellectual property. I was trying to sell a girls' animation series, and it was a really great project, and we got to see, we showed it to absolutely everybody, Disney, Nickelodeon, everybody, and we actually partnered with a producer because he had that link and that connection to take it into all these studios and show it to them. I could never have done it on my own because you need to have an association with somebody. You can't do a lot of things unsolicited, so a lot of times you need to get someone so you can go in. That's the case even with QVC and HSN. They don't really, it's easier to go in with a vendor who works there, who they trust, than just coming in cold. So sometimes you're going to give away a little bit of a percentage, but what you gain from that could be monumental. So what you need to do for a lot of things is you kind of have to create a pitch book or a business plan, any kind of supplemental materials and all kinds of clever things to catch their attention and let them see that, there is a need for this and people are going to love it and it's going to work and it's going to be a huge success because you believe in it so much. So then you've got to convince other people to believe in it. I have learned in my experience that people get really excited for you when you're excited. So when you're presenting things, it's pretty easy to find people who are excited. The hard part is to get that final person who signs off on it. So there's always so much excitement and there's a ton of disappointment, but it doesn't matter. You just have to keep going and keep going. You really need to think of everything also, so when you do get to that point, you have to have everything covered, so when they ask you questions, you can, spew out your answers. You know what you're talking about, you know the marketplace, you know what you got to do. All right, so let me think what I wrote here. So to start with, when you're putting this together, you're going to start with your introduction. You're going to talk about a little bit about what the product is, and really basically you're going to just introduce what the product is. And then what you want to do is tell your story in your pitch. You want to tell them who you are, where you came from, what your background is, and what got you to this point, because that makes it to an investor or somebody who's going to want to take you on. If you have a good story, that really draws their attention. They really like it. Then you want to talk about the attributes of your brand and the goals of it. So whether it's having a music festival and you want to raise money for charity, or you just want to have this really cool music festival and it's just to bring a certain type of music and a certain type of venue, or you want to make this flying ping pong ball because no one's ever made them before, and you think that people are going to think it's phenomenal. And who wouldn't want a ping pong ball with wings on it, or elevator shelves in a supermarket, which personally, if anyone wants to invent that, I would really be happy about it, because I can never reach anything. So, you really want to talk about the attributes and your goals. And then you also want to give yourself, your brand, it needs to have an identity. In our music company, the one thing that made us really successful in the beginning when we started was that we decided, I understood branding really well. And if you just put yourself out there and you don't have a personality, what you're doing, whatever it is, doesn't have a personality, it kind of gets lost. Really, it gets muddled up into everything else. So you really needed to have a strong identity. I mean, everybody nowadays recognizes that, the red circle, that Target, super strong brand identity. There's so many things. Walmart now does the little, the little happy sun, the little yellow lines in a circle. It's a really good brand. If you do things that are not as recognizable, it definitely muddies your product and makes it less noticeable. So when you're coming up with your brand and your identity of it, you really have to be strong about it. And you can't be emotional. You need to ask a lot of people. And you can't be offended, because you could show it to 100 people or 20 people, and they'll say, yeah, it's really nice, but what if it's not really appealing to me? Ask them why. You really need to know why, because there's all different there's a lot of psychology about branding. like FedEx, it's got an arrow in it in the font. I mean, and you don't even realize that there's a lot of subliminal messages in branding that, the average person doesn't realize. It's just subliminal. So branding is huge. It's really important. Our music library, I decided to brand it and make it look like comic book style because the name of it's Gotham. So it's got a cartoonish type of font, and then also our covers are always hand drawn and they look like comic books. We've been doing this 17 years, so we've deviated a little bit, and we're trying to refresh it now. But basically, we were very recognizable. So when all the music directors and all the supervisors would go to all the libraries, ours would stand out because it was consistent. The logo was in the same spot. The color was the same. It became very familiar to them. They knew the quality that was inside of it, so they clicked on it. Just like, you get a magazine every month in the mail. It was very consistent and very comfortable. Also with the name Gotham, everybody also kind of thought they already heard of it, which sometimes is a cool thing to do. Pick something that's familiar, even though it becomes yours, because if it's familiar, people are like, oh yeah, I know that, I like that. And they don't. They're just confused. They just think they do, but you kind of got one over on them. So your brand identity is super important to your success. Then you need to do, you have to have a competitive analysis. You really have to be honest with yourself. See what's out there in the marketplace that your product's going to compare up to. Maybe there's nothing. Maybe you've hit on something new and nobody has it, which is amazing. But you still need to really understand and analyze it and see, will it be competitive? Will it be, the price point that you're going to set at it, is it going to be competitive? And if other people start to copy you, how are you going to stay one up on them? So you have to really, really be careful with your competitiveness. With things like nonprofits, like My Education Project or a music festival or an art show, clearly it's not going to be that competitive. It just needs to have good quality. It's got to be great so people want to go to it. So so this is kind of just a format for you. You have to be more specific for your specific need. You also really need to know your demographics and your target market. Who are you selling this to? How old are they? Is it men? Is it women? Is it 18 to 35? Is it 45 to 65? Is it 5 to 7-year-olds? Is it male? Is it woman? Is it both? Extremely important. You've got to really understand your demographics and your market, because if you create something, well, here's the example. I'll explain. So this intellectual property that I did a couple years ago, this animation series, everybody loved it. And we were on top of the world thinking, oh my God, we're going to have a huge hit. It's a girls' animation for tweens. So that's 7 to 13 years old. Well, everyone loved it so much that they said to us, we wish that it was a boys' animation, because we learned that the demographics and the target market for animation for 7 to 13-year-olds is always they do boys' animation, because girls will watch boys' animation, but boys will not watch girls' animation. Girls, they'll do live action for girls, and boys, they'll do animation. So we actually, when we developed this, we didn't know our market. We never should have done a girls' animation show because they don't buy them. We should have made it live action, which means, with people as opposed to drawn characters. So we spent, 3 years developing this product, making our, production Bible. I mean, making it beautiful, doing videos, animation, music, you name it. It was complete. But guess what? There was no demographic for it. It was a moot point. So really, really, really important to know your market. And there again, going back to your brand identity, your visual identity also. So now you know what your brand is going to look like, your logo. You'll work on your packaging, you'll work on your website with the brand, but the visual identity of the product that you're doing. If it's, I'll say again, if it's a concert, is it country folk? Is it, is it going to be, dance, electronic? Is it reggae? So in that sense, that would be visual. What's it going to look like? What kind of art's going to be there? Or if it's a thing you're making, what's the identity of it? Is it, is it whatever you're making, the thing, is it smooth, is it shiny, is it silver, is it hard, is it soft? What is your visual identity? The thing that you are doing, the visuals, extremely important. You have your brand, you have your logo, but now the thing that you are doing, there again, it's every category, whether it's inventor, artist, or happening, creative. it's still, you still, oh, there's a visual there. So you really need to kind of tweak that and make sure it's exactly what you want. All right, so now you have consumer product strategy and growth. So now you know your market, you got what it looks like. How are you going to get, what's your strategy to get it out there? And when you get it out there, you can't just say, I'm doing this today. You never just do a thing to make it happen once. It has to have more than one go around. Otherwise, you can't make any money. So I'm working on something right now with products, and we don't just have one product. We needed to have 5 in the field, that in the category that it's in, because one product is not enough. Back in the day, you know, you'd put out one record. You couldn't have just one record. You need to know that you're going to have 3. You know, if you're going to start a festival or something, well, you know, you want to start one. You want to start it this year, but, you know, you want to grow it. So, you know, you want more than that. So you really need to have you kind of need to have a timeline. You need to say, okay, this is what we're going to do this year. Then we're going to take it to the next level, and then we're going to take it to the next level, because anyone who's going to invest in you, or anyone who's going to want your product or your thing, they're not going to want a one-shot deal. They're going to want a long-term thing, so you need to know how you're going to grow it. Maybe you've invented one little item. You know, Chia Pets, right? They invented Chia Pets a million years ago, and over the years they've made all these wacky ones, right? They changed them, different characters. You know, you can't just have one thing. So even if it is just one element, maybe you're going to make flying ping pong balls. Well, maybe next year you're going to make flying tennis balls, or maybe you're going to change their colors and give them names and put something in them. But you've got to have more than one thing. And then the next thing in your business plan you need to do is you need to have your financial summary and your expenses. You need to write down everything that you spend. You need to project. You need to see what things are going to cost, really what they're going to cost. So many times we think something's going to cost $1 and it ends up costing $1.47, but we just sold it to this company for, you know, $2.75, and we thought we were going to make $1.50 or whatever. I'm just talking out of the top of my head, but oh my gosh, we forgot that we have to do extra packaging because they're going to drop ship something 11 times instead of 5 times. Our expenses just went up, and now we're only making a dime. So you really, really have to be super careful with your financial summary and expenses, because this is, you know, after all this work, if you don't know what you're spending, you can really, really screw yourself up, and it was all for nothing. You can go into debt, actually. A lot of people lose a lot of money because they overspend, even though everything is going perfect. It can turn into a disaster. You know, so, and then the last thing you want to do is you want to have your timeline. So again, that kind of ties in with your strategy and growth, but that'll also tie into your financial summary, your expenses, kind of everything. So you want to have this really beautiful timeline so you could show the people who are going to take your project on when you're trying to pitch it, this is how long it's going to take me to do A, and this is how long it's going to take me to do B, and so on and so forth. So they have a really rock-solid understanding of everything you want. So by putting together this business plan, or in my world, when it's on television or music or something, it's called a production Bible. It's so clear and concise that when they come back to you for questions, they probably shouldn't have any, because you just gave them everything. Your product, who you are, why it's a great product, the identity of it, you know, who you're going up against, you know your target market, you know what it's going to look like, you know the strategy you need to do to grow your product, and then of course all your expenses and summary. And you will have a very, very happy person looking at your product. And when you do such a good job, they respect you and they realize that you're a pretty smart cookie, and that they can work with someone like you because you're not, you know what you're doing. So that would be that part.
I have a question.
Yes.
So that's everything you should put together in like a pitch book.
Yeah, or like a business
to
plan.
Get money. Or
well,
to get
like for
back.
example, I am showing something next week to one of the online TV station, you know, selling channels, and so they're going to get my product. I'm sending them the product, and then I'm also sending them what I happen to call it a pitch book, but we could call it a business plan. And in it, what I just went over, it has absolutely every single one of those elements listed out. So this way they can go through the book, they can see each product, what it is, what all its attributes are, you know, what we need to spend, what they can then in turn mark it up for, how we can how we can sell this. So basically, I'm spoon feeding them everything so they don't have to think. I don't want them to have to think about anything. I want them to pick up the book, scoop up all the products in their arm, and go, oh, goody, because I just did their job for them. And I made it so easy for them that they can't wait to do this because they're excited about it now, because they don't have to sit there and go, okay, well, wait a minute, did they think of this or did they think of that, and how is this going to grow, and what if we want more products? Can they make more products in the future, and will they look the same, and what market are we going to target? Is it the same market? No, I am telling them everything, and because I am, they're going to go, oh, she knows her stuff. This is going to be easy for us, and they will absolutely give me a shot at it. They definitely will give me a shot at it if they like the product.
Right.
And I'm going to them with the hopes that they will, and already they do. So now it's just a matter of them going, wow, this is done. You're awesome. Because people aren't that hard-ass. They really aren't. If they like something, they're going to wrap their arms around you because you're going to make them look good. Whether it's selling, you bring a new product to their company, or whether you're selling something on TV. The idea is everyone wants to make money. And if you can make them money, you are a hero. Everybody is looking for that next really cool idea. So what we're going to do is now we're going to just kind of review. So, we want to assess everything. So we want marketplace positioning, which we talked about. So we want to know where in what market you want to be positioned in. Are you going to be television? Are you going for music? Are you going for products? Are you going for science? Are you going automotive? Are you going food? Whatever it is, where's your market? Find your position. Then it's critical to price it competitively. You need to know that, the consumer is going to spend $9.99 on this widget. They're not going to spend $19.99 on it, even though you think it is the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're not going to spend it. It's going to be $9.99, not $19.99. And if your costs supersede your profit, you've really got to reconfigure what you're making, and you really need to get it down. And if that means tweaking things a little bit to get it to a very competitive, friendly pricing structure, you've got to take the time and figure it out. You've got to be extremely competitive. You have to know that you're going to go up against things, even if yours is the first possible idea. Someone's going to knock it out really soon after you if it's doing well. So you have to be extremely, extremely competitive and extremely careful. Then you really also want to engage your consumers. By that, you have to get them excited. Once you're getting out there, how are you going to get your consumers excited about your project? So now let's say that you got someone interested. They're going to make this thing. They're a corporation, so they'll do the advertising and whatnot. But what is it about your thing, or your idea, or your invention, or your sound that's going to get the consumer engaged and taking it on? For us with our library, it was, well, the quality of the music was fabulous, but it was also, we always tell a story on every CD that we put out in our library, and we engage them through our artwork and our covers. Through a thing, it might be your packaging, that the box or the packaging that's in when they're walking down the aisle, it screams out to them and it catches their eyes. I mean, how many times do you buy something just because of what it looks like? Book covers also, you usually pick up a book because the cover draws you in, the title draws you in. So that's your consumer engagement. So, you have these things, your posters for your concert that you want to throw. Your poster's got to be fabulous. It's got to catch their eye. So that's extremely important. That's part of your branding. It's part of your visual product, but consumer engagement is really just, that's why they put so many things by the registers, because it engages you as you're waiting online, and you tend to grab it, especially if it speaks to you and it stands out. The other thing you need to learn about is a retail footprint. Where is your stuff going to be? If it's going to be in a store, do you get it on that end cap aisle? Because that's like, the mother lode to get something on the end, but it costs money. So you need to educate yourself on where your product's going to end up, and where it's going to be, and where's the best place for it. You kind of want to know where, in your head, where do you think the best place for your product's going to be? Posters for your concert, in the subway station, awesome, right? And by colleges, your books, can you get it airport kiosks where people are buying them quickly when, for good sales because they're hopping on a plane and there's not that many choices? Are you going on Amazon? Are you going on different, eBay? Where are you going to put your stuff? Where is it going? Are you putting it on QVC or are you putting it on HSN or something like that? So you really need to know where you want to end up. And then you want to do your industry research. And that really ties in with, everything. You want to know what your widget does. You want to know where it's been sold, how many other widgets, even if they're not like yours, where they've had them. Even if there's something similar, like an ice scraper for your car windows that's heated or something. And, well, like, let's go to Target and let's go to every automotive store and buy every single one that's similar to your product. Make sure that you compare your product to everything that's out there, even if it's not the same, if it's close, if it has similarities. There again, with books and things like that, you're not going to do the same thing, but you're going to know that your story isn't like, an Arthur Miller play. You're not copying his, it's quite different. Or a Stephen Sondheim musical, you're not doing Sweeney Todd, even though you're doing something with a barber who kills people. No, you can't do that. You got to do your research on everything that you're making and everything you do to make sure that you are, and this is the key word, and you'll hear it a million times when you're doing something, what makes you proprietary. Proprietary. What sets you apart from everybody else, whether it's your artwork, it's your story, it's your concert, it's the widget that you make, it's the flying tennis balls, whatever it is, what makes you different? What makes cleaning products different? Why does this window cleaner clean better than all of the other ones? What sets you apart? What makes you proprietary? That is the key to becoming successful. All right. So now you have your plan. So we assessed everything. Now you have your plan. So we're going to say, what are your expansion opportunities? How are you going to expand on your business? You're going to have new concept developments. You're going to always be growing your business. You're going to have different ideas. This is just kind of recapping, I guess. First we assessed it. Now we're in the plan. You're going to have your growth strategies. You're going to know how to merchandise. You're also going to try to trend forecasting, because what's popular today might not be popular next year. So you might invent something today, and it could be obsolete next year because nobody needs it anymore. Or you do one venue of something, and it's just, it's dated very quickly, especially in today's society. Things, with social media and everything, things fly in and out so quickly. Every day right now there's Alex, the boy who works at Target. In 24 hours he's become a superstar because someone, Instagrammed him, and all of a sudden he's a celebrity. He's on TV shows, and he was just a kid at Target. So because of such a fast-growing media world now, you have to realize that your product can come and go really quickly. A lot of times, too, it's interesting to know, just a little FYI, that things usually are good for 3 years. That it takes about 3 years to make something happen and grow something and then get it out there. And then you usually are good for about 3 years. You usually peak at about 3 years, and then it starts to wane down. Unless you're Coca-Cola or something. But generally speaking, if it's just an individual thing, you're good for about 3 years. You grow it, you peak, and then you start to kind of slow down a little bit. There again, that's just my experience, but I've noted that it's pretty common. So you really need to have a really, really awesome plan in place. And then you have to implement it. You have to relationship networking. You have to really, get yourself out there. Let people know who you are once everything is secure, and you have to just really work it. You have to reach out to everybody. Just everybody. You have to be careful how you do that. You don't want anyone to know what you're doing. Like, for example, if I'm going to do something right now, I'm trying to get something one of the TV networks. Well, I'm going to try both at the same time, but they're both not going to know it. And you just have to be clever about it, because you want to line up yourself that if one doesn't take you, then the other one will, and you don't want to wait, because time is always of the essence, especially when you're doing something that can be hot this week, and then 3 months from now they lose interest. So when you start to go out, you really have to kind of go out full gun. So you really, really, really need to do a lot of networking. And then you really need to position your brand and understand and develop it. Your product, merchandising, and assortment, you really need to understand your product, understand it, figure out what you're going to do with it. This is just there again. Now we're just implementing, kind of going back over it. then you need to look for your investment opportunities, get your acquisitions. You need to know your strategic concepts. You need to figure out how you're going to distribute it. You have to tons and tons of communications and media relations. And then you also want to think about if you do make it and you do get it out in this marketplace. It's a small world. The world is so connected now through media that if it's possible, you could think international, like with products in particular. If you can't get it into the American market, sometimes you can do it overseas. Maybe sometimes a little bit easier if you hook up with like a QVC, the international. Our music is all over the world because we have distributors all over the world in every country. Same thing with QVC; they're all over the world. Not probably so much for a music venue because it wouldn't be the same. Even theater, a lot of times you could start your show, in London if you're doing a Broadway show or an off-Broadway show or a book. You could, because Europe is so much more open to the arts in that respect. So don't think that you're stuck on this continent. You could really go anywhere. Sometimes it's a little bit easier in certain things to go other places. And then you really just need to develop your business. Taking into account everything that we've talked about and putting it together, and just have a really, really clear message of what you want to do personally. Have a hard look in the mirror at yourself and say, okay, I'm ready to do this. Do I have everything in order? Am I ready to go? Have I, dotted my I's and crossed my T's, and then look and see what kind of strategic partnerships you're going to set up when people want you. Make sure they're healthy. Make sure you can talk to them. Make sure you have a good understanding. Everyone comes on really sweet when they want you, but they can really kill you in the end. They can stab you in the back. You have to be really, really careful. You have to really go out carefully. So many bad things happen that you really need to understand your strategic partnership. And a lot of times you're going to feel extremely disenfranchised because if you allow a bigger company to take you on, then they're going to want to take over and do their own thing. So you have to also be prepared to step back a little bit and say, okay, I can give up a little bit of my person because I'm going to have to trust these people to do what they can do, and what I hired them to do, and run with it, and hopefully they'll keep me on board. And so you really have to be a little detached, and if you want to make something successful. So now you're passionate about your brilliant idea, and you're going to work your tail off. But you know what? It's not going to seem like work because you're dedicated to it. It's your creative endeavor, and you're persistent, you're ambitious, and you're going to have the drive, and it's going to take lots and lots and lots of time. But it'll fly by because you know what? There's nothing better in the entire world than making your dreams come true. There could be disappointments, but I've had so many, and the more I have, the more I just want to keep making more stuff and getting more things out there. It's addictive. So now I say to you, go get out there, pitch your idea, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
One more time.
Oops.
Okay. If anyone has any questions, we have a few more minutes if you want to send them in, typing them in. Otherwise, we can send you, if it's okay with Robin, a copy of this presentation,
Sure.
a PDF, so you can see like the steps to put together your pitch book. This is all Robin's information, the things she's been involved with, and she's done a lot of different stuff, so she knows what she's talking about. And I just want to say thank you to Robin for coming in and doing this. We hope you all liked it, and we will be emailing you a copy of this, like we said, and we would love if you could just fill out the survey at the end and let us know what you thought. So good luck with your big idea, and if there's no questions coming in, we are going to end the presentation. Thank you, Robin, again.
Oh, my pleasure.
And thank you all for attending. We'll see you soon.